Hello, Guardians. Welcome back to Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Corey Deerigan. Alongside me, as always, is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, my favorite co-host on the Citadel, Josh Finney, skipping the nicknames, Beefy TWAB.
Oh, Beefy TWAB. Lots to talk about tonight. Lots and lots of stuff to talk about tonight. This TWAB is just as long as that gigantic behemoth of a lore tab that we got last week. So, yeah. It's a lot. In the interest of preserving my voice a little bit for tomorrow, I've got some stuff I have to do. We are skipping Lore Corner tonight completely because I'm not going to have anything left by the time we get to it.
Yeah.
That's it. This is a 2-drink night, my friends.
This is It's a multi-beverage evening. It is let's just say, strap in. We're going for a ride.
We are going for a ride. We're going to skip the banter this week. Nothing good happened this week. Nothing interesting. Go watch Moon Knight. Go buy his skin in Fortnite. That's all I've got to say to you.
Did you buy the Moon Knight skin in Fortnite?
There is a Moon Knight skin in Fortnite, and
I know, but did you buy it?
Not yet.
You better hurry up.
I've succumbed to Fortnite. I played the no build mode, and it was really intoxicating, winning like 5 matches in a row. So now I really, really, really want to keep playing Fortnite.
Well, now you have to buy Moon Knight, though.
I know. Our friend Ray Apollo was rubbing it in my face that I do not have the Master Chief skin, and he does. So
if you buy it on Xbox, you get that Onyx skin.
You can't buy the Master Chief skin anymore, though.
I know. It'll be back when Season 2 starts.
We'll see. I don't know. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, I'm glancing over my shoulder periodically because I am currently farming gold in Fable 3 to try and get the good ending. I did not realize that you actually have to have like 7 or 8 million gold, not the 6.5 that is advertised if you take the good route. And you choose to keep preserving everything, you actually have to farm so much gold in this stupid game, and it is the most tedious thing in the world. But if you just leave yourself idle every 5 minutes, your investments come in from your stores, and I have it up to like 150k, and every single person in the world hates me because of it. So, nice. Yes, I have turned evil for the sake of my people, and then I'm just going to like sell everything and give it back to the people once I paid off my debt. But that's not the point. That's not why we're here. We're here to talk about Destiny.
Nice. Destiny, everybody.
Destiny. But before we dive into this big beefy TWAB, there was something that I saw earlier today that I wanted to pull out before we get into the nitty gritty of the TWAB. Bungie has really taken an interest in advocating for equality and for mental health and things like that over the last couple of years. And one of their leads, their co-lead of accessibility, Drew Tucker tweeted this out earlier today. I saw Liana retweet it, and I thought it was a really great resource when I saw it. There is an entire section on the Bungie Help site that is mental health resources. So it has some places you can go. There are resources for things such as for suicide prevention, sections about self-harm, learning the signs of both of those, but also resources for addiction, anxiety, bullying, cyberbullying, burnout, depression, and imposter syndrome. And I was reading the section for anxiety and depression earlier personally, because as I told you guys, I'll always be open and honest with you, especially if I think it'll help even one person. I have personally been in counseling for about 4 or 5 weeks now. I think I just had my 4th session with my counselor yesterday, Wednesday on the April 20th. Had my 4th session, and even in just 4 sessions, I've noticed that I'm already starting to think differently about things. I'm already starting to feel, a little bit more self-worth. My depression is definitely still there, but I'm learning about ways to tackle that and tackle my admittedly crippling anxiety that I have, without having to just resort to popping anti-anxiety medication 4 or 5 times a day. Which, no joke, I was up to taking much more than I was prescribed each day because I literally just could not handle being in some situations. So I just want to share that resource that is there for anybody who wants it, who needs it. You are not alone in this community. This is something that affects a lot of us, worldwide, especially on the internet in today's day and age. It would be unreasonable to not think that somebody is going through some of these issues, especially after the last 2+ years that we've all gone through. Collectively as a society. On top of that, I know a lot of us are, us youngins who are in our 20s and then into our 30s. We've gone through how many what could be considered traumatic events in our lives at this point. And that's in addition to the things in our personal lives. So those are resources there. There are some helpful links inside those, some signs, and what qualifies for each of these things, signs of anxiety, of depression, of addiction, etc., and ways to get help. So
yeah,
just want to make everybody aware that is there. Bungie, as always, thank you. Great resource. I'm really glad that the accessibility guys are kind of taking the initiative on this and publicizing this for everybody to see.
Yeah, it's a good move. Good on you,
It's a
Bungie.
good move. It's good stuff. Bravo, Bungie. And I have noticed an uptick in some of this stuff since Liana came on board. I know she's really been advocating for people with epileptic seizures, because she is one of those who suffers from that. She notably had a very, very bad experience with Cyberpunk that actually hospitalized her because of the brain dance sequences, and there was no warning going into the game. And she was sharing the other day, they actually she was one of the ones who helped Bungie kind of determine like what was okay for some of their emotes, specifically the one where it's up in the shop this week actually with the 2 pistols out and you're firing all the sparks out of them to not have that trigger epilepsy, to not trigger a seizure. So that was actually really cool to hear about. I appreciate that. And anything that makes the game environment better, safer, and more inclusive for all of us is always going to be a win. So, but with all that in mind, we're going to shift gears. We're going to go into the TWAB. That is our big thing. This is the big beefy. This is the big beefy boy. This is like the triple stack from Arby's. It's the triple stack ham and cheese melt.
This is like the triple baconator from
Wendy's.
Yeah,
there's a lot of meat. It's juicy. It's kind of greasy and like, I don't know if I like all the parts of this. So that's why we're going to get into it. We're going to dig into it. I will say right now, we are going to skip chunks of this because there is a lot here.
I mean, so like I was scrolling through this at work, and it's literally one of the biggest TWABs I think I've ever seen.
It's like 9,000 words. It's 9,000 words. Yeah. A lot of this is statistics and numbers, and I'm not going to sit here and read every single number off. As always, we're going to go through. We're going to hit the highlights. We're going to try and keep this as condensed as possible. But there actually are some great graphs in here that kind of help explain some of what we're talking about. I would urge you, pull out your cell phones, pull out your laptops, whatever device happens to be near you. Unless you're driving, don't pull it out. Follow along with us. We're going to read along. Story time.
Story time with Josh.
So, kind of an overview at the beginning that they give us is that we're going to talk about goals from the team, glaives, plans for future tuning, flinch and airborne gameplay styles, and how they want to move those more into build crafting. 1-hit kills in the Crucible, and then the big one. General tuning for special ammo, exotic weapons, legendary archetypes, and weapon perks. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. Chris Proctor is the one who is speaking to us through the TWAB, as transcribed by Damage. Whew. All right. Glaive Arrave. It's our first one. The intent for glaives going into this is that glaive melees should activate perks that trigger off base melee damage or kills. For example, ammo refill from Grave Robber, weapon damage buff 5x stacks on Swashbuckler, ammo refill from Sealed Ahamkara Grasps, etc. Like, we all kind of wonder, why do the melees from the glaive not count for melee-centric things? Right. That was one of my big questions surrounding this.
Like, I always wondered that.
I don't necessarily think it should like count for my melee kills. But in a way, maybe it should. I don't know. Like, that's kind of in the weird place of like, well, should a sword count then? And I think no, because you're holding a blunt weapon.
Yeah. and like even with the glaive, like you could shoot out of it, right? I mean, it has
Mhm.
like a secondary or like a a secondary and tertiary kind of active
Right.
ability. And so like if you're using the melee, then maybe you should get the melee, because like when you hit the melee button, you're like hitting people with it, but if you're
So
using the trigger, you're shooting
I
people.
think what with the intent here is to trigger the things that do not require a charged melee, such as a throwing knife, such
Hmm.
as Void of the Old God or Child of the Old Gods. Excuse me, not Void of the Old Gods. God, throwing hammer, etc. Because in the
Hmm.
next section we
Well,
see.
I was just gonna say this real quick. Well, why isn't it active like a Titan melee where like you have that charge melee that does something unique when it's charged, but then when you just pull it when it's not charged, it's just a punch.
So they detail that kind of in the next one. They do not think that glaive melee should activate perks that trigger off powered melee damage or kills or require expending subclass melee energy, such as the combination blow or the assassin's cowl, the hunter exotic that allows you to go invisible. Glaive melees should benefit from melee damage buffs such as Worm God Caress or Winter's Guile, but they should not benefit from weapon damage buffs such as Rampage, Kill Clip, Swashbuckler. So that makes it kind of interesting for Swashbuckler because they say that we should get perks that trigger off the base melee damage, but not from the weapon damage buff, right?
Hmm.
And then projectiles should benefit from weapon damage buffs. With those expectations set, there are inconsistencies with how these are implemented in game, some of which we've already fixed, some of which we'll look at in the future. We've already discussed a lot of what they've changed this season, but as a quick rundown, we're not going to spend any time on this. Since the Witch Queen launched on February 22nd, we have gotten glaive projectile hits to reach maximum energy decreased from 6 to 4. Glaive melee can be interrupted by the hunter dodge. Grave robber now pulls from reserves on glaives instead of generating ammo. They no longer get stuck in clang recovery when using a melee attack on each other. Sealed Ahamkara graphs no longer reload glaive on projectile hits, but it does on melee hits, as stated above. Glaive melees no longer stunlock high health combatants, and glaive melee kills are now tracked in match history for bounties and so forth. Now, here's the juicy part. Here's what we all want to know. What is changing with glaives going into season 17 on May 24th? Glaives will be pushed deeper into their role of hard-hitting melee damage and near-complete protection when shielded, as well as increasing projectile speed to make them more reliable at range. The Glaive Shield grants 97.5% damage resistance in PvE and 75% in PvP. Increased melee damage versus PvE enemies, except bosses and vehicles, by 25%. So it's going to be a quarter more powerful. I think it's already pretty good against rank and file combatants, but getting this against mini bosses is huge.
Hmm.
Especially, I would say, champions. I love hearing this. Reduced energy drain speed while shielded by 30%. And then the projectile speed dependent on the range stat. At 0 strat, increased from 30 to 60. At 100, increased from 80 to 100. So I think most of us are probably going to fall in the range of about 45 to 75, maybe. I kind of feel like that's probably where we're going to, like in terms of a speed increase. Which, let me tell you something. Im- Advanced impulse amplifier is fucking awesome on glaives. I love it.
Yeah.
That's what I use. I'm meleeing things and then I'm stunning champs from far away. I love it. That's part of how I got through Master Vox, was just spamming that glaive over and over and over again. Here's what I'm most excited about, though. Exotic glaives will all be buffed in addition to the global glaive changes, which make it easier to build energy. The Titan Glaive, Edge of Action. Players now gain a Void Overshield while inside the bubble. Helm of Saint 14 now applies to this bubble as it does for Ward of Dawn.
Ooh.
Now, here's the question. With them saying that, does that mean that I get Weapons of Light if I dip in and out of this? I feel like no, because I think they would have like explicitly said that.
Yeah.
But I do like that this is again what we've been talking about: subclasses, exotics, and weapons all going in perfect synergy. And I'm really excited that the Titan one is kind of becoming what we had hoped it would be from the beginning.
Hmm.
The Warlock Glaive, Edge of Intent, increased speed and acceleration of healing turret projectiles. I need to see that one in action, I think, before I can make a definitive statement on if that is actually going to be better or not. Because I think overall, that and the Titan one, all three of them were disappointing, but I think those two really missed the mark. The Titan one sounds like it'll definitely be more of what we expected. The Warlock one, we'll see. We'll see. I need to see it in action. And then the Hunter Glaive, Edge of Concurrence, tripled the damage of the wave detonation, increased numbers of enemies it can chain from 4 to 8. Those, I feel like that one, especially combined with the projectile speed and the increased damage, is going to be pretty big, especially, it may not be big next season, and I wouldn't be shocked if we saw another little buff going into season 18. I'm fairly certain, given some of the evidence later on in this TWAB, I think that Solar 3.0 is what we're getting at the end of May. I think Arc is going to be the last because that needed the most work overall.
Yeah.
The Hunter was basically useless. Warlock, outside of the Moira Beam, Chaos Reach, was basically useless. And Titans, I mean, Thunder Crash. And we each had like maybe one thing that was useful, if that.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I don't know any Titan that really uses Arc anymore, really, unless they're like unless
Void
you're like doing
3.0,
boss
there's
damage.
no need to.
Yeah,
like with Void 3.0, I mean, don't get me wrong, Thunder Crash is still a great Thunder Crash with Curious of the Falling Star is still an awesome DPS burst.
I agree, but
oh yeah, no, like the customization of that class though, like pales. And why would I want to use a more inferior class when I can completely customize inside Stasis or Void?
Right.
Like if you're Titan and you're not running Void right now, except in some very special circumstances, namely PvP with Lorelei Splendor, why on earth would I want to run something else? Thunder Crash is still fun, don't get me wrong, and I think it's some lower level content or in some of these lost sectors, it could still be really good. But the only time that I've seen John run it recently is when we go raid. When we do Rolk, he Thunder Crashes him. That's the only time that I think I've seen it since Witch Queen came out, is in that instance.
Yeah.
I remember Joe trying to use it a little bit in the Legendary campaign, and it just did not go well. We needed the bubble for survivability. So that's big picture glaives. Pointy sticks are getting better in the long run. Like, exotic pointy sticks are going to be maybe worth running now, but I think we really have to get all the subclass changes to really see the benefits. And these are the ultimate weapons that are going to play in with those. So if my whole theory about Solar 3.0 is correct, maybe you could see like a mega healer warlock next season. And I'd be really stoked to see that for this new dungeon.
Yeah.
Global changes for flinch. So flinch, a little bit of terminology here, is aim deflection on receiving damage. It's a common complaint in this community with primary weapons. We've rebuilt the stability weapon stand to grant flinch resistance in addition to its other effects, with a maximum flinch resistance of 10% to 25% dependent on weapon archetype. With this change, players can build for flinch resistance more easily on weapons that feel flinch more often than others, and less so on special weapons, which we don't want to be easier to use when under fire. You may not feel the difference using just one source of flinch resistance, but when stacking two or more sources, the benefit is strong. Higher zoom weapons are more affected by flinch, which we took into account when tuning these numbers. So here's the breakdown if you have 100 stability. 25% resistance on auto rifle, SMG, and bow. 20% for pulse, scout, sidearm, LMG. 15% for hand cannons, trace rifles. 10% for everything else. So grenade launchers, fusion rifles, shotguns, snipers, rocket launchers, etc. A stability stat of below 20 will technically have a small flinch resistance penalty, but only around 5 weapons have a stability stat in that range. The resilience character strat now grants flinch resistance of 0% at 0, 10% at 100. So you will have some built in. An example, to get to like 90%, for example, a 100 stability stat Suros pulse rifle with the Suros synergy perk active, 10 resilience, no distractions, and 2 unflinching pulse rifle armor mods while buffed by a rally barricade will get you to 90%. So, yeah, you have to do a lot to not have any flinch whatsoever.
Right.
But I do think in the long run, this is probably a lot better. For
Yeah.
example, on the flip side of things, a 70 stability stat hand cannon, 5 resilience, 1 unflinching hand cannon armor mod will get you 39%. Again, I feel like most of us are probably going to fall somewhere in the middle of that, somewhere
Yeah.
between the 40% and the 90%. Probably around like the 55-60 range is where the vast majority of players will end up at unintentionally. Because of resilient stats, unflinching mods. You know, I like to use the ones that are in the season pass a lot, that are in the artifact. I don't typically waste a lot of mine unless I know I'm going to be getting really sweaty in trials or I'm going to be trying a really high light level activity. And even then, I've got some things that I kind of prefer on the PvE side. But still, more options to build craft is a bigger thing. This is a lot of what we're about to go over with the global stuff is really PvP centric. Let's be completely honest. That's what a lot of this is. Airborne gunplay. Before getting to build crafting, we've made a change to the modifiers applied while airborne. Your primary weapons will have less randomness and projectile accuracy in most cases. You'll have less aim assist instead, and will need precise aiming to land your shots without building heavily into airborne. A new weapon stat, Airborne Effectiveness, which is present on all weapons except those where being airborne doesn't have an effect, like a sword, which maps onto aspects of airborne gunplay using these guidelines. You guys can read. You guys can read this. Okay, this is a lot here, but
there is so much under this.
There is so much here. But what I will say is, with full investment, 100 airborne stat, a character will have no airborne accuracy penalty and the same aim assist. Whereas if you're in like the 51 to 70 stat range, character will have better accuracy than retail weapons with Icarus and fewer misses due to randomness, but with reduced aim assist. Again, feel like that's where a lot of us are headed, is for that 51 to 70 probably on a lot of stuff. Unless you've specifically built yourself for airborne combat. Top Tree Dawnblade, hello. I highly suspect Icarus Dash is probably getting a rework whenever we get our Solar 3.0. So GG's, don't worry, Stompies are getting their due here in just a minute. Okay, like those have been two of the biggest complaints that I've seen in terms of airborne gunplay of, oh, well, you don't even have to really aim, you just have to jump and pull the trigger. And I know how frustrating that is, especially with a jumpy hunter that just has to double jump, shotgun, you're dead. Or double jump, bang, 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 hand cannon while they're in midair, you're done. Because there's so much aim assist there. Now you actually have to build for it instead of just throwing on an exotic.
Yeah.
This stat has been hand-tuned on all exotic weapons, everything shipped in Season 16 or 17, and everything that's ever shipped as Trials of Osiris or Nightfall loot. Older legendary weapons have a default value set per weapon archetype to a value just below the middle of the allowed stat range. This will be a hidden stat at Season 17 launch, similar to aim assist and recoil direction. You'll be able to check the stat on a specific weapon through the API, and in Season 18, several previously hidden stats will be visible on the weapon inspection screen. Cool. Awesome. That is pushing this even further into MMO territory. These are things you can already see largely on Light.gg and on DIM. Some of the stats we were reading last week are things that are only visible inside the API. Some of those ideal stats we were talking about. So this is going beyond like the 6 that you see on your screen. We're going to get a lot more now, which I'm really excited for, because that's there for, you know, if you're listening to this podcast, it's probably there for you. If you're seeking out a Destiny podcast, you probably really care about your build. Okay, right. So it's there for nerds like us. I'm very excited. Johnny's very excited. He won't stop texting me about it. He's very excited about everything in here, guys. This stat will influence...
I couldn't tell by all of his tweets today.
Oh my god, I have not even looked at my feed. I've tried not to today. Stat influences several aspects of airborne gunplay. There is a lot here about shotgun pellets, about the one I really want to talk about, the penalty cone for primary weapons and for special weapons have lower penalties than they currently do, and 0 penalty as you get up toward closer to 100. For special weapons, you have 0 penalty at 100, and with primary weapons, 0 penalty at anything above 60. So, like hearing that. Headshot aim assistance. There's some stuff in here. I will read their notes here. Controls how forgiving headshots are while airborne. If this stat is at 0, you must be pinpoint aiming precisely at the head to get the headshot. Otherwise, you'll get a body shot even if your aim assist cone overlaps the head. Previously, while airborne, players got full aim assistance for headshots provided their aim assist cone overlapped the head at all. That is the big one that is making people upset. Because previously, if you had stompies and you had a precision weapon, and boom, 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 you're up in the air, you're even just aiming at the head. Boom, it's automatic one hit kill. Automatic. You've got that. You're getting the precision hits. No more. You actually have to make a build in order to get those. And if you don't want to do that, good luck. You're probably going to complain that the crucible's broken or something like that, which it is, but that's a whole nother topic. Whole nother day.
That we don't have time for that.
We don't have time for that. We're flying through this thing. We don't have time for that tonight. What this means overall is you'll get fewer misses due to randomness from the accuracy cone while airborne, but reliance on aiming is much higher at a low stat. To make this easier, you will need to build into airborne. With decent aim, you will land more body shots instead of crits. I want to hold up here for just a second.
Hold up.
As a just personal aside, this is really, really, really driving home to me that we need to be able to select loadouts in game. And it should not just be a feature that is on DIM. Maybe we need to ditch old consoles for it to happen, but I would like to have a custom it's clear I'm going to have to make a custom tuned set of armor for Crucible now instead of just using my same stuff, because I've previously just run all the same armor. I maybe swap out an exotic, maybe an aspect or two here and there, and some of my mods, but usually like 30 seconds and I'm good to go. It is no longer going to be that way. I'm going to have to build specifically for PvP encounters. And I like that personally. I am somebody who has more than enough materials to be able to invest. This is becoming more and more of a hardcore MMO. We need to be able to have loadouts that are easily selectable and not just through DIM.
Right.
So, just personal aside, Bungie, I hope you're listening. I saw that we were mentioned in your comments today. Please, for the love of God, give us loadouts.
Yeah. Side tangent, though.
Side tangent is a side tangent.
Is DIM easier to use than Ishtar?
Yes.
Okay.
DIM there is not a single resource that I would urge Destiny players who have the ability to be near a computer while they're playing. So if you're playing on PC or if your Xbox happens to be hooked up at your like computer station, you should have DIM open on another window or on your laptop or something. I cannot overstate, like, this season I finally became a believer in DIM. I liked what it offered. I am now rapidly getting to the point where I'm going to need to figure out a way to like prop a laptop up next to me when I'm sitting on my couch playing, because I am needing it more and more and more. And just trying to painstakingly search for a weapon on the app, click on it, it's not it, and then I have to research for the weapon and remember which one I clicked on. It's terrible. I hate it. I hate it so much. It's good in a quick GIF if I know exactly what I need. I only have one roll of this weapon or of this exotic or whatever. DIM is becoming more and more essential. You can equip your mods. You can see the values of everything. Like we said, hidden API stats are on there. You can see comments from some of the top content creators. What they use, what they recommend you use for certain activities. We read a lot of those when we went over the season 16 weapons a couple weeks ago when we were talking about Peace of Mind and Sweet Sorrow and all those. It is an essential resource at this point. Like, it is as close to an essential resource as you can get without actually having Bungie plastered on it.
Right.
Okay. I cannot believe Bungie has not tried to hire the people who run DIM at this point. That actually blows my mind that they have not tried to hire away some of them.
Yeah.
To try.
Well, I wonder. I wonder if they just don't think enough people are after that kind of thing.
I think once subclass 3.0 is completely out there, they're going to have to do it.
Yeah.
They're just going to have to. It's already integrated in there. They've given them unprecedented levels of access now. It's going to have to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how many people actually use the Bungie app to switch stuff around, which kind of...
I am one of the only people.
Sucks.
I am the only person in my entire friend group who uses the Bungie app for that purpose. Other than that, people only use it to grab bounties. And I do not blame them.
I don't use it. I use Ishtar.
Ishtar Commander?
Yeah, Ishtar Commander. I almost said Ishtar Collective. That wasn't right.
I
But
think
yeah,
that
I
it
use
was
instructor
good. I
mode.
think it was good during Destiny 1, but Dim has
Yeah.
just, especially over the last like 2 to 3 years, it's just become that, and Light GG have just become such important resources for this community.
Yeah.
That at this point, like, I think you're actively doing yourself a disservice if you're not using Dim regularly. Even if it's just to research weapons. I'm not saying like you must have a second screen open. Everybody must be this hardcore. But if you're somebody who switches between activities a lot with a group, having loadouts is awesome. It's great. It is so time saving rather than, all right, guys, hang on. I got to get kitted out for PvP, or I got to get kitted out for, Grandmasters. We just came from the raid. Give me a second to change all my stuff. Like, no more. We're done.
Yeah.
I like it. There's a lot of stuff in here about airborne effect. Getting back to kind of the main TWAB. There's a lot here about airborne effect at this strat. A lot of numbers. You guys can go read all this. There's some exotic outliers, of course, and there are some legendary weapons that they hand tuned. Submission, Messenger, Hung Jury, Igneous Hammer, Frontier's Cry. Those are some big
Oh,
ones.
so ones that people use all the time.
Ones people use all the time, yeah. Within their that go above or below their intended stat range. There's some subclass abilities in here, and then here's the big one: exotic armor. Armor that revolves around being airborne or works on specific weapons grants a bonus penalty in the -50 to +40 range or higher if conditional. The big one here, the big one. Stompies, -50 to all. -50 to everything.
Oh.
Stompies have effectively been nerfed. You must use them as part of your build. If you are a hunter who likes using those, you must build around your airborne strats now. You cannot just slap on Stompies and call it a day.
Wow.
Wow.
-50 on everything.
-50 on absolutely everything.
Jesus.
Um,
Sorry, that's like
yeah. There are some other things in here that I really like that I want to read out. Lucky Pants, +20 to hand cannons after readying a hand cannon. No backup plans, +30 to all shotguns. Hallowfire Heart, +20 to all. Lion Ramparts, +50 hipfire only. Peacekeepers, +40 to submachine guns. Peregrine Greaves, +20 to all. Necrotic Grips, +30 to Weapons of Sorrow. Now that's a fun conversation right there. Because Weapons of Sorrow, the only true weapon of sorrow that we actually have is Thorn. Are they counting Osteo as one? Are they counting Malfeasance? Are we counting Lumina? Like,
are
what
they
are we
adding
counting
one
here?
next season?
I would say it's probably a lock that we're getting one next season now. Who knows? So that's an interesting note. Wings of Sacred Dawn, +50 to all. Boots of the Assembler, +30 specifically to Lumina. And then Redacted, +30 to fusion rifles and linear fusions. I'm very curious to see what this is and which class is getting a +30 to fusions and linear fusions for airborne. God, whoever gets that is just going to be a nightmare with Jotun. And I fucking hope it's Hunters. I hope it's Hunters just to keep the salt fueling the PvP mines.
It's gonna be it's gonna be Titans.
It's probably going to be fucking Titans running around with Jotun forever, but you know what? A man can dream. This all means, in general, if you want good airborne effectiveness, say a 70 strat line, you should pick a weapon with a high stat, put Icarus on it, and either equip an exotic armor piece that helps or run a subclass aspect, fragment, or ability. And if you want the best possible airborne effectiveness, you'll generally have to go all in on weapon, exotic armor, and subclass. So there are some examples here. I'm not going to break them all down because you need to go and read some of this. But one of the examples given here is with Stompies. So Submission, our raid SMG, Icarus Grip, Stompies, and the Tempered Metal perk activated will get you 12 airborne effectiveness because of the 27 from Submission, the 15 from Icarus Grip, the -50 from Stompies, and the +20 from Tempered Metal. That is wild. That should be like, if you were running that today, that is just a knockout. That is a knockout stat line. If you go in and run that tonight. In a month, you won't be able to do that. So get it all in now. I cannot wait to go in and not have to fight 3 Stompy Hunters in Trials of Osiris as much anymore. I'm very excited. We'll be monitoring how it rolls out, and we expect to make adjustments post-ship for fun. There are graphs showing the most used armor exotics across each class. Hunter, it's not even funny. Like, there is just a giant bar labeled Stompies. And it's like, it's gotta be at least, God, I'm looking at this, 40% maybe? 35 to 40% of this bar is fucking Stompies. The next closest one is no exotic armor is the next closest one. So if that gives you any sort of idea, that's how bad it is. Titans, it is Laurely Splendor, and I think that's Mask of the Quiet One, are the two most used, and then Warlocks, Ophidian Aspect is sky high, absolutely sky high there. That and Phoenix Protocol. So
yeah,
just to give you guys, and Controverse holds. Controverse holds are pretty high on there too, it looks like. So that's pretty wild. That is the most annoying thing that we had to get out of the way right there. We've got fun stuff to talk about now. Well, that was fun for most. I think that was fun for everyone who's not a Hunter Stompy main in PvP. That was a great section. For
if
everyone who doesn't use that,
main,
for all my fellow Hunters out there who do not use Stompies because we're really bad with them, just this is nothing but a win for the rest of us. I love it so much. Playlist weapon changes. I'm very excited for this. This is one of my favorite updates right here. These weapons are intended to provide interesting drops even for players who spend a lot of time in an activity. We want to keep the large perk pools to address that goal. We want to provide a way to reduce the duration of the chase for players who want a specific weapon. Since the older playlist weapons are still available as vendor rank-up rewards, we want them to feel more relevant in a post-origin trait world. Playlist weapons now have a chance to roll with extra traits in one or both columns, increasing with the number of rank resets with that vendor during a given season. Reputation resets each season, so you'll need to play these activities each season to unlock the potential for extra perks. All playlist weapons from Beyond Light and later will drop with the appropriate origin trait. So that means everything from November 2020 will drop with double perks now, or has the chance to drop with double perks the more that you increase your rep. This, of course, makes me really upset because now I'm going to have to go play Gambit to get an even better Servant Leader and a better Herod C. I hate this. I hate this so much. But that also means Bottom Dollar can roll with those extra perks and with new traits now. So it's kind of a fair trade-off, I think. There's some good stuff here. For reference, how far back this goes, this is like back to Third Axiom days. So, yeah. We're reaching way back there. And to me, that pretty clearly means they don't plan on rotating any of these playlist weapons out. At least not yet. Maybe later this year or with Lightfall, but definitely not like a season from now if you're making these changes. And it is worth noting, this is just for Vanguard, Gambit, and Crucible weapons. This does not include Trials or Nightfall weapons at all. Those have already gotten some changes this season. Stat display update. All weapon stat bars now range 0 to 100. Eliminates rounding and other errors, particularly in adept weapons, masterworks, and enhanced traits, and conveys the bounds a weapon stat can exist within. So, cool. One-hit kills. Here's a big one. Several damage buffs external to weapons that allow to one-hit kill without much investment, such as an aggressive sniper rifle with high impact reserves, Ariana's Vow, and Le Monarch, specifically when combined with a 20% damage buff. As an example, Empowering Rift can give many sniper rifles one-hit body shot capabilities in the Crucible. Most of these use the same buff under the hood, so we've adjusted them all at once. With these changes, it's going to be much rarer to get an easy one-hit kill with a weapon that typically wouldn't allow it. Reduce the damage bonus for Empowering Rift, High Energy Fire, and Inertia Override from 20% to 15% against players. No effect, no changes in PvE. In addition, we want special ammo to be less plentiful, making it more difficult to chain special weapon kills. Disabled ammo scavenger armor mods in PvP. No matter how much ammo a player was carrying on death, if you pick up a special brick, you can only get one ammo for shotgun sniper or one kill's worth for weapons that require more than one shot to kill, such as Forerunner and Trace rifles. Retune several special weapon archetypes and exotic weapons below with the general goal of reducing the effectiveness and uptimes of special weapons. Special weapons, in particular shotguns and fusions, are responsible for more one-hit kills than we'd like in PvP. We want them to be an option, but less ubiquitous, less effective at multiple ranges, and with lower uptime. So let's stop there for a second. No more running around with like 8 shotgun shots on Anomaly. No more just spamming Jotun down the hallway on Javelin 4. It is over, my friends. No more camping with a sniper on the other side of the map. You get your 1 or 2 shots, and that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, I love it. I'm continuing to love this. This is going to do more for me, getting me back into PvP than anything else.
I'm quite happy with this.
I'm very happy. I think a lot of us are happy.
I can't tell you how many times I've been running through, even in a normal control match where people are camping on the other side of the map, just taking you out, and then you'll see them run up and take your special ammo, and then, they'll take you out, and it's like, oh my gosh, just stop.
It's not great. It's not great, but I mean, you can look at they have a graph here of special weapon usage in the Crucible broken out by archetype, and the 3 overwhelming ones are fusion rifle, sniper rifle. Sniper rifle accounts for about 15%, it looks like. Fusion rifle accounts for closer to 20. Shotgun is an overwhelming 50%. That is absolutely just wild to me. That is wild. And then, I mean, a grenade launcher, glaive, linear fusions, like they each have like 5% maybe. But it is absolute. And then way down at the bottom, non-existent is trace rifle. Yeah, it's real bad. It is real bad, my friends. So special weapons. We're gonna get into the archetypes now. All special weapons have had their in-air accuracy significantly reduced. We're okay with encouraging players to build in the primary weapons more effectively in the air. We do not believe a prevalence of airborne one-hit kill options is good for PvP. Special weapons have a slightly larger airborne accuracy penalty than primary weapons. We've already talked about that. Sniper rifles are fairly slow to ready, stow, and aim down sights, which has made snapshot feel mandatory for many players. So they've reduced stow, ready, and aim down sights by 10%. So all snipers are now snappier. And then sniper rifles have less access to ammo than shotguns and fusions, where kills drop more ammo right in front of you. So we think ammo scarcity will prevent snipers from spiking. Great. Love to hear it. Absolutely love to hear it. High risk, high reward, essentially. God. Okay, this is where all the talking. That everything else is just warm up. We have now hit the halfway point. Slug and pellet shotguns are overwhelmingly popular in PvP despite some recent changes, so we've touched them again with a goal of encouraging diversity in special weapon choice. We're going to keep an eye on this change since we've touched shotguns multiple times recently, and we'll adjust it if needed. With this change, we expect shotguns to have a shorter one-hit kill distance, but still be effective enough in that short-range kill roll. It reduces shotgun one-hit kill distance by about 0.5 meters because the importance of spread angle is just as high as damage fall off, and this has not been touched. There's stuff about fusion rifles, particularly in trials. So they made a global change to fusion rifles. One-hit kills should be very uncommon from fusion rifles. Great. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've been shredded from like 25 meters away by a fucking fusion rifle this season.
Mm-hmm. Gosh, dude, fusion rifles.
Again, great graphs here showing how much people are using certain fusion rifles. Mm-hmm. And
these graphs are awesome, by the way. Like, I mean, I want
more of these. I want more of these for these types of things. Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure. That is absolutely wild if you look at how many which ones people are using, and it seems to be right now main ingredient is the main one, and you can see that big ass spike is right around the time Xur sold the God Roll. Snorri was great there for a few weeks. Likely Suspect is still being used an awful lot. It's really Likely Suspect, main ingredient, and then Snorri and Deliverance in like those 3rd and 4th slots. Mm-hmm. There's a lot here about fusion rifles. There's a lot of numbers here. You guys can read this. I don't need to tell you. Fusion rifles are being pulled back from the extremes a little bit. The end. Besides Divinity, trace rifles aren't popular in hard combat, and we particularly want damage type reworks of the oldest 3 trace rifles to have a chance to shine this season. So increased trace rifle damage against non-red bar combatants by 20%. and increased ammo picked up per special ammo brick from 18 to 30. We're getting dangerously close to like Cold Heart being a really good weapon again in PvE, and I'm here for it. I'm very excited if that happens. Uh, I mean, I just don't know what else to say. I really like trace rifles. I really want trace rifles to be used in a way that's not Divinity. Anybody else remember the year one Cold Heart meta on Leviathan? Good times. Good times.
Was it?
Yep.
I meant Leviathan.
That was special
was
weapons.
That a good time?
I'm taking a drink. We got the first drink.
Yeah, first drink. Oh, it's almost empty, Josh. You got to crack open your second one.
I'm gonna go get it from the fridge. Yeah, this one was like 3/4 full. Primary weapons. Auto rifles and pulses are not as competitive as we'd like at mid-range, and lightweight pulse rifles are too hard to use to hit their optimal time to kill. With these changes, we expect auto rifles and pulse rifles to better compete with hand cannons in mid to long range and outrange standard zoom submachine guns. Auto rifles, the damage fall off distance has been increased by 0.75, so you got a little bit longer before those bullets aren't hitting their target nearly as much. You know, maybe a couple more of your bullets will go farther to hit your target. Pulse rifle, there's some stuff at 0 range, it's increased from 15 to 16, and then at 100 range, 22.5 to 24. So there's a pretty significant jump here. When the previous high ends were 15 to 22, and now they're 16 to 24. That's a pretty significant jump. And that is hit fire fall off distance multiplied by the zoom value to get the aim down sights fall off distance. Lightweight pulse rifles, so 450 RPMs, aka my beloved blast furnace. Damage per bullet increased from 15 to 16, and then precision damage will be increased from 24.7 to 26.4, whatever. Will not change the optimal time to kill in PvP, but will reduce the number of crits required. Love hearing that. Absolutely love hearing that. Zoom is too important a factor on submachine guns, and SMGs with low zoom don't feel competitive in PvP. We reduced the variance in zoom, blah, blah, blah. They have adjusted zoom values on some of the most common ones. It does make the inaccessible submachine gun multi-mock, which had the highest perk trait RNG, compete less with auto rifles and will no longer straight up outclass every other SMG. They have a custom-tuned Shayura's Wrath, multi-mock, stochastic variable, Ikelos, which is the same change it had in the Witch Queen. No new changes to Ikelos. 7 Seraph, Every Waking Moment, and Huckleberry. Body damage has been decreased slightly, and precision multiplier has been increased slightly. The last one that we got here is precision frame hand cannons have always been good, while airborne, effectively having built-in Icarus grip and the changes to airborne functionality. We wanted to preserve that feeling while translating their advantage to the new system. Intrinsic switched from a 75% airborne accuracy penalty reduction to plus 25 airborne effectiveness strat. This means if you, here's an example here, because I don't even know what I'm saying here right now, right? If you had a Frontier's Cry, new Iron Banner hand cannon, it's awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
With an Icarus grip mod in it, you would be at 19 plus 25 plus 15 equaling 59 before factoring in armor or subclass, if that makes sense. Because you've got the 19 from Frontier's Cry, you've got the Icarus grip, and you've got the I don't know where the other 15 comes from. Whatever. I will try and learn more. This is why I'm urging everybody to read along with us, so you can reference the graphs and the numbers from back before. I've talked way too much that I don't even remember some of this.
This is insane.
Well, this is what happens when you have people complain that we don't have transparency, and now we almost have too much. Heavy weapons. Corey, we're getting there. We got heavy weapons and exotics and then perks, and then we're done with all this. That's still a lot, though. Heavy weapons. LMGs are not where we want them to be in PvE, so we're giving them an additional buff, but less so against bosses, where their extremely long range and deep ammo reserves would make them strong in too many rolls. With this change, they'll shred most enemies without stepping on top-tier boss damage options. Increase damage by 40% against PvE enemies and 20% against bosses. Xenophage and Grand Overture receive this buff except for the bonuses versus bosses. I don't know if Xenophage is going to be, feasible at all, or if Grand Overture will be an option for most people, but I am curious to see what happens here. I really like Xenophage. I just hate how I had to use it for like 2 years straight. Sword strats have been inconsistent for a while now, so we've tidied all of these up, mostly cosmetic. Blah blah blah. Charge rate stat of Solace Scar from 20 to 50 to match Temptation's Hook. Great, cool. Rocket launcher subfamilies weren't differentiated enough, so we've made the differences more extreme. With these changes, we expect there to be a more marked trade-off for the intrinsic tracking on precisions and a greater benefit for their subfamilies. Precisions will have precision frame rocket launchers minus 10% damage for both impact and detonation. High impact, no change because it has the highest blast radius. Adaptive and aggressive is plus 10% damage. So, yeah, our God Roll Royal entries may not be so God Roll anymore. I'm actually kind of curious to see how that goes. Exotics. This is by far the biggest section that we have remaining. We're gonna go through and we're gonna hit some high points here. Everything else, again, you guys can check out yourself. All exotics that ship for Forsaken now have their kill trackers on by default. Fighting Lion got a bit of a buff, increased damage by 5% and blast radius by 0.04 meters. Eyes of Tomorrow has increased damage versus bosses and champions by 30%, particularly with adaptive ordnance. Very excited to see the changes to Eyes of Tomorrow now, because I want to see how that goes. That may be a viable strategy for some of us going forward. Leviathan's Breath always felt like it should absolutely wreck champions, and using its first shot to stun an unstoppable without doing much damage felt bad. Archer's tempo from the Catalyst is significant on paper, but in practice, that draw speed buff isn't as noticeable as we'd like. We hope the changes make it a bit better against all types of champions. So here we go. Leviathan's Breath has a bunch of stuff. Archer's tempo perk from the Catalyst now has increased effect just on this weapon. It is, it's quicker. They reduced it by about 0.2 for the draw time. Small delay before detonation on champions, mini bosses, and bosses. This allows the impact to stun an unstoppable and the detonation to deal bonus damage against a stun champion. Damage changed to be more of an even split between impact and detonation and increased the damage across the board by 50%. Overall damage versus champions is roughly doubled, even more compared to shooting an unstunned, unstoppable champion.
Oh my god.
So, no, I like this because this has long been a useless exotic.
No, I get it. It's just like, God, 50% plus almost double damage.
I mean, when we're looking at this through a PvE lens, it doesn't bother me, I guess.
Yeah.
I actually
No,
kind of want to
because
see
when
how
you're
this
in
goes in some.
when you're in PvP, you want to feel powerful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter what you use, you want to feel like you're going to be able to use what you want to use. And obviously there's like a min-max to it, but like, I don't know, the average player is going to still want to feel powerful even if they don't pay attention to the meta. So
Yeah, I really like that. That may be my favorite thing so far. Huckleberry had an underwhelming engagement range, updated zoom based on the change of the baseline submachine gun zoom. Here's one. Here's a good one. Xenophage. We're increasing the rate of fire and adjusting damage back to what it used to be. Increased rate of fire from 100 to 120 RPM. Damage per bullet to match the previous. Does not benefit from the damage buff versus bosses. So you're not getting that extra 20%, but they are reverting it back to what it used to be. Plus, you will get that extra damage against the rank and file. So maybe Xenophage has a place in the rotation again. Not sure. Again, I'm going to need somebody like Aztecross or Fallout Plays to go experiment with this. They're smarter than I am, and they can tell me if this is actually feasible or not. Le Monarch is too oppressive when combined with external damage buffs, but we felt it could be stronger in PvE. With this change combined with damage buff change, we've introduced a 60 resilience gate on killing a guardian in PvP with a crit, while an empowering rift or similar. Reduced poison tick damage versus players by 25%. Changed poison damage type from burn to poison. This is largely housekeeping, not gameplay significant. Increased poison tick damage versus AI by 50%. I am not completely sold that this is not gameplay significant and just housekeeping. We have long believed that the fifth subclass coming is a poison or like Weapons of Sorrow-esque subclass. We called it the Thorn class for a long time. I still think it's coming.
The Vapor class now.
Vapor, I think, is what we were starting to call it for an element. I would not be shocked if this is to bring it in line with that before we get that officially revealed.
Yeah,
But that's
that
just my
seems
own
more.
speculation. That's just me talking out of my ass. We can come back in 9 months and laugh at me when I'm wrong. Lorentz Driver can be difficult to fight against in PvP because it does very high body shot damage. With this change, getting left super weak by a body shot should be less common. We're keeping an eye on how this change lands and may revisit it. Body shot damage reduced by 20% and is no longer a one-hit kill while in an empowerment rift. Body damage reverts to old behavior when in the weapon's damage mode. Precision damage in any mode is unchanged. There's a lot here for Skyburner's Oath. So,
Neat.
good luck if you like using that. It has the highest airborne effectiveness strat of any weapon in the game. So I'm kind of at 35. So I'm kind of curious to see if this gets used more.
Yeah, is it though? I mean,
the last word. I mean, it's a giant meme. But here's one that I know is making a lot of hand cannon players very happy. The last word plays differently on mouse and keyboard than it does on controller. The disparity does not need to be that large. Reduced mouse and keyboard recoil penalty from 33% to 22%. So I absolutely expect to see more last words running around now.
Yeah, seems likely.
Man, I really, really, really hate this next. This next change is the first thing that I am a little upset about, I think, because it's been so helpful in GMs. Arbalest is more dominant than intended in hard PvE content, able to fill the anti-barrier role as well as shield breaking and boss damage. We've made small adjustments here, but may need to look at it again in a future season. Reduce damage versus champions by 25%, but will still break barriers in one hit. Gross. Not a huge fan of this. 25% doesn't feel like that much at first, and then you realize how many fucking champions are in some of these GMs.
Right. I mean, you have like 10, 12 champions sometimes. It's
dude, like, not even that. Like Master Vox has like 30 champions.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta be fucking kidding me with that. Like, I don't know. I have a feeling they're gonna have to revert this one back and just like kind of accept it. Like, okay, maybe raise health just a tiny bit. I don't know. Graviton Lance's Catalyst did not help the weapon enough, and we want to give it a boost. Catalyst changed from granting Hidden Hand to granting Vorpal Weapon and Turnabout. Ooh. Very, very interested to see Vorpal Weapon with this one, especially with the volatile rounds that are built into the gun.
Ooh, I might be pulling this gun out of my vault.
Yeah, we got some trace rifle updates. Cold Heart, with the exotic trait more or less being is a trace rifle, no longer fits in a world with legendary trace rifles. Sustained damage creates an ionic trance, and collecting an ionic trance grants energy to all your abilities. Increased grace time before the damage ramp clears. Prometheus Lunge, solar damage type update, and generally this needed some tweaks, so sustained damage applies a more useful burn to targets. And Wave Splitter, your power level no longer cycles randomly. Default damage is the same as the old middle tier. Picking up an orb of power now grants 10% or 10 seconds of maximum power and caps at 20 seconds, up from 5 and 10. And it will now suppress targets when you pick up an orb. Wave Splitter, legitimately a great option with Void 3.0 and with volatile rounds. I gotta say, I saw somebody in my LFG was using it a couple weeks ago, and I was really just loving how he was shredding all the ads. It was great. And then Lord of Wolves got some custom tuning. Damage fall off, start and end by 20%, 25%. It was too strong with shotguns and fusion rifles getting reduced range, so they're bringing this down as well.
Yeah.
We're done with weapons. We're through weapons. We have perks now. We have perks, and I do genuinely... We're almost... I promise we are getting real close. We're getting real close to the end. We're getting real close.
Are we?
We actually genuinely are. I promise. Again, we're just gonna kind of fly through these. Feel free to read these on your own. There's a note in here about snapshot sights. We talked about that up top. Opening shot has felt mandatory on shotguns forever because it gives part of its buff as a damage fall off scaler. This isn't something we like on short range weapons. You can still feel the range bump with this change unless the range is already capped, but it won't let weapons push completely outside their intended engagement ranges. So remove the damage fall off scaler. Range stat bonus goes up from 20 to 25. Other stats from this perk are unchanged, such as the aim assist, reduced accuracy cone, and reduced cone growth. Full choke, spread angle scale has been increased a little bit. Smooth bore has been buffed a little bit. Desperado is the one that I'm really excited to talk about. It's a strong perk in the current form, but we'd like to be able to put it on more weapons without breaking PvP or locking it behind trials. With this adjustment, it's still strong, has more PvE utility, and can be applied to pulse rifles aside from high impact if desired. Fire recovery scale will be increased from 0.415 to 0.7. Doesn't fire as fast with the perk active. Reduced duration from 7 seconds to 6 seconds. And there's going to be a timer in your buff corner. And remove the PvE damage penalty. There's some changes to Mulligan here. Compulsive reloader shipped weak. With this change, you can really feel the reload speed bump. Reload stat buff from plus 40 to plus 50, and a 0.95 reload animation scaler. And then mods, of course, Icarus Grip will now grant the airborne effect of this strat instead of its previous airborne accuracy penalty scaler. Whew.
We're doing
done.
it.
We're done. That is everything from the Sandbox. That is everything from Chris Proctor. Now we have to talk about things that are going away. Playlist changes. So, because I want to read these because I want to have a discussion about some of these. Because they address one of the things I want to talk about in their last paragraph here, and it's something that was a sore point with me before the beginning of the season, and I feel like I'm just going to keep hammering it home until something changes. But just before last season ended, we announced a list of weapons that would be rotating out of Destiny activities with little time to spare. Some of these weapons could be seen as powerhouses in previous Sandbox metas, while others were just happy to be included. Next season and the season after will be no different. In an effort to keep loot pools from overcrowding as we continue to develop and release sweet new pieces of gear, we have a handful of weapons from Iron Banner, Nightfall, and Trials rotating out at the beginning of Season 17 and Season 18 to give you a full season to target anything that might be missing from your collections. So what is leaving at the beginning of Season 17? In 4 short weeks, we have from Iron Banner, the Occluded Finality Sniper Rifle and the Finite Impactor Hand Cannon. Night Falls, the Comedian Shotgun and the Palindrome Hand Cannon. Trials of Osiris, Shayura's Wrath Submachine Gun, and the Messenger Pulse Rifle. Let's stop right there. You are losing 3 of the best PvP weapons in the entire game right away.
Yeah, you are.
If you were not able to take advantage of Adept Shayura's bonanza a couple weeks ago, I feel so bad because I was not able to either. And now the gun is gone for maybe like the rest of D2. We don't know when or if this is coming back.
I think it'll come back.
I will be spending all my tokens on Messengers and Shayura's Wrath for the rest of the season because I would like to get them with the Trials and the PvP traits built into them. But I also really want Shayura's with Golden Tricorn. Yeah. This is a problem. I've got 4 weeks. I only have 4 weeks left. I have like 3 Trials weekends left. I'm not stoked about this.
Because there's an Iron Banner in there, right?
Yeah, there's going to be an Iron Banner in there at some point. I'm not happy about this. And then, I mean, nobody's crying over Comedian or Finite Impactor. But man, Palindrome going. I really hope you guys got that Adept Palindrome a few weeks ago. If not, man, I think you'll get one more shot at it. This week or next. I don't remember exactly which week it is. I think it's
next week.
You've got one more chance at it, and then it's going away. So if you wanted it with that new Vanguard perk and the new Nightfall perk for the champs, this is the time to do it. This is the time to go get it. Suck it up and get some LFGs going. It's, of course, probably going to be an absolutely god-awful one like the Glassway or, the Light Blade or something like that. So GG's, everyone. Season 18. So you've got the whole summer to do this. We're going to enjoy summer, and then in August they're going to crush our dreams. Peace Bond is leaving the Iron Banner.
I got
along with Archon's Thunder. Nightfalls, Plug 1, and the Hothead are leaving. Trials of Osiris, the Eye of Soul Sniper, and the Summoner Auto Rifle are leaving. Now, here's the first discussion I want to have. The Summoner was just brought back this season, and it's already being taken out of the game.
That tells me that they're bringing something really cool into Trials, something that they think is cool.
It's got to be another auto rifle. I mean, there's a reason why the Scholar never came back, and we got Aisha's Embrace instead.
Yeah.
This is fucking wild to me that we haven't even had a full season with this gun, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna give you one more season to farm it, and then we're taking it away. Like, what? I get that most of us probably already had god rolls on everything else, but then it was like, oh, you added new traits and you didn't retroactively add them to our guns, understandably. So now we gotta go grind all these god rolls again. Guys, at a certain point, you gotta stop.
What are you doing?
There is a note here, and this is why I think that of any of these, I think Summoner is the one that gets taken off this list. Season 18 is a ways out. Weapons included in the planned rotation are subject to change. We don't have any firm plans to share. We can note the team is aware of the feedback surrounding weapon rotations and availability and looking at opportunities in the future to address it. To keep expectations in check, this is a longer-term investigation, so don't expect too much news over the next season. Once we have more info, we'll be sure to let you know. This is a sore spot for me because, for example, we all saw that comment from I think it was Liana a couple weeks ago when Shayura's weekend happened, saying, "Oh, this is going to be your last chance to get an adept Shayura's," and I think almost all of us interpreted that as, "Oh, this is the last chance to get it for the season, not this is the last chance to get it, period."
Right.
So now there's that aspect of FOMO, I think, setting in, and I'm too afraid to search Shayura's Wrath in my Twitter search bar right now. But I cannot imagine that anybody is too happy about this one right now.
Right.
Eye of Soul going away, okay, totally understand that. The Summoner going away is just, it feels like a really weird choice. I don't understand why a newer weapon is going away over something else, but then I kind of look at it and it's like, well, after that, what's really left? Aisha's Embrace, which just got introduced this season as well, and Reed's Regret, which, I mean, right for now is probably still, if you can get an Adept Reeds, because you got that Vice Stinger perk on it, that with triple tap and firing line is probably still the best legendary heavy in the game.
Right.
I guess that's why they're going to leave that in. Because I saw the argument of, well, some of these have been in there for like 2 years now. Like Eye of Soul, if you don't have a good Eye of Soul at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Because you've had 2.5 years. You've had since the Trials relaunch to get a good Eye of Soul. Messenger, you've had a full year. Shayura's, you've had 9 months to get one. I think that was introduced. No, you've had a full year. That was introduced Splicer. You've had a full year to get a good Shayura's at this point. Same with Plug One. Hothead, you will have had a full year. Peace Bond, you'll have had a full year. Archon's Thunder, blah, blah, blah. Really, like, Summoner is the one that stands out to me. Summoner is the one that is just really leaving a bad taste in my mouth. Like, you're telling me that I've had 2 seasons to do this, and for those of us who already maybe had great weapons, that's fine because we probably dumped a lot of tokens into Summoner and into Aisha's. And the expectation is that they're setting the expectation that we will get 2 new weapons for each of these activities every season. I think that's the cadence they want to get in on, but you can't take these weapons away and not have an opportunity to get them. You can't just take them away for like 2.5 years, and then when they come back, be like, hey, they're back. And most of us are going to be like, hey, we still have rolls of these from like a year and a half ago that are awesome. Thanks for not having sunsetting anymore. I mean, at least let me like earn a recipe to craft these if you're going to take them out of the game or something. I don't know.
Right.
I've got a variety of complaints, but I think that's more of an end game loot comment than anything else, because I can craft raid weapons, but you're going to tell me I can't eventually craft trials or nightfall weapons. I'm not saying let me do the flawless or the adept versions. Just let me eventually be able to do those normal versions.
Right.
And I don't know, maybe that's a longer term conversation about weapon crafting that we can have in the future. Maybe we can get John back to talk about that with us, but that just leaves a really bad taste in my mouth.
Right.
Near term ability tunings. This is happening on Tuesday, April 26th. Axiom Bolt cooldown will increase from 91 seconds to 152 seconds. Titan Barricade cooldown with the Bastion Void aspect is now 82 seconds. That is up 29 seconds. It matches the recharge rate of the Warlock Rift. Offensive Bulwark now grants 60% less bonus grenade energy regeneration in PvP. Whisper of Chains provides 15% bonus damage resistance against players when near a stasis crystal, down from the 25%. Unchanged in PvE. And here's the big one. Here's the real big one. Renewal Grasps. While equipped, Renewal Grasps increases the base cooldown of Duskfield grenades from 62 seconds to 152 seconds. The outgoing damage penalty applied to player victims in the Duskfield grenade is reduced from 50% to 20%. The damage will remain unchanged versus PvE targets. And they have confirmed Loreley Splendor will not get touched this next season. It will get touched in the following season. So there will be, or excuse me, I might have that reversed. It may be getting touched in. It's not getting touched now. It is getting touched in season 17. Excuse me. That's what it was. I promise I know what I'm talking about. I'm not getting 17 and 18 mixed up. I promise. I am just, man.
This is a big TWAB, Josh. It's okay.
It's a big TWAB.
I feel like
we're almost there, my friends. We're almost there. There's some stuff about Gambit Labs is coming off next week. It's Moat Thief. That's coming in. Have fun with that. Go read what that's about. I probably won't play it, but GG's if you guys decide to. New Amazon Prime Gaming bundle is up. Go grab that. Get your free exotics and your free emote. I think we're done. So some of the issues that will be fixed with the hotfix next week that we didn't already talk about. The Summoner Auto Rifle from Saint 14's Reputation Rewards is missing a Masterwork slot. That will be fixed. Lightblade and Birthplace of the Vile Grandmaster Nightfalls were not counting towards the completion of the Total Conquest Triumph. And in Gambit, the Primeval Shield sometimes did not successfully drop after defeating the Envoys. So we will see what happens there. Man, go check out Movie of the Week. Go check out Art of the Week. I think there's some really, really cool shit here, especially the Sathona one. Gives me the creeps.
Yeah.
So down here at the end, and this is something I wanted to address. This is kind of piggybacking on our conversation about Trials rewards last week. Over the last few seasons, we've seen great feedback and data on Trials rewards. One piece of feedback specifically speaks to the flawless pool that's enabled each Sunday. While this creates a more welcoming environment for those of differing skill levels in the non-flawless pool, we have heard feedback from those in the flawless pool that things feel a bit more competitive without much of a change to rewards output. Moving forward, any player in the flawless pool who is at the 7th win of a given passage will have chances for adept weapons to drop post-match. Whether you still have flawless passage or ended up with a couple losses under your belt, you will continue to have chances for post-match adept drops once you've reached 7 total wins. We've been working on this change for a bit, but a small issue led to us backing out the change just before Season 16 began. Through that process, an alternate bug was introduced on confidence passages, giving a slight preview of changes to come. In any case, we're looking forward to watching the feedback roll in this weekend. I've heard the reward might be desirable for those who enjoy longer views on the battlefield. I have a feeling that it's going to be Adept Reed's Regret, and if it is, god damn it, I'm going to play a lot of Trials this weekend. I'd really like to try and go flawless, even though I feel like it's futile unless it's at the beginning of the season. But knowing that you can get those extra rewards to drop now permanently is a pretty big deal to me. That is something that was sorely needed for a while. I still don't think it's picture perfect, but I think we're like 45, maybe 50% of the way there now. So I'm very excited to see what changes going forward, and we'll figure it out. With that, I think we are finally done with this monster TWAB. I'm closing out that tab so that I don't have to see it anymore.
Don't sound so excited, Josh.
Man, that was a lot. That was an awful lot. That was a 60-something minute reading of the TWAB.
It was. Yeah, it was almost longer than that. We're at an hour and 14 minutes in terms of recording. So, I mean,
That is twice as long as Dato's breakdown, by the way.
Yeah.
So,
take that, Dato.
We had some wonderful banter though. So, man, there was a lot of shit in the hotfix that came out this week. You guys can go read all that. I was going to read through some of it. I'm absolutely not touching it. The main thing I want to talk about was Trials. We talked about Trials. There was a nice little note there at the end that I hadn't seen. So, Yeah. Anyways, that is going to be that. I will say before we get out of here, we do have some we have some messages on the on ye old account.
Ye
Let me
old
get those pulled up real fast.
Tweeter.
Tweeter, pumpkin eater, something like that. I don't know. Do the kids still say that?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Um. So earlier today, when Damage was asking for some feedback on the TWAB, fire off. Let me know what you guys are thinking. Somebody said in reply to him, uh, "Can you get someone on a podcast to help explain what all that means? I didn't understand like 60% of it." Um, and then Gus at Gus FTD actually replied and said, "Watch Tower Casuals or Last Word Pod. They go over the TWABs quite in depth when they're as big as this one. Two of my favorites to listen to." So Gus, thank you so much. If you're listening to this,
Thank
I
you,
hope you
Gus.
are. I appreciate you. Thank you for helping us make sense of this ridiculous game where I'm having to figure out how to do math on the fly.
Yeah.
And I definitely haven't done advanced math in a solid decade at least. So thank you
Comparing us
so
to
much.
the Last Word Pod, that's an
Yeah.
honor.
My
Big deal.
recommendations would be Last Word Pod or DCP's Firing Line that Fallout hosts. If
Yeah.
it's a weapons breakdown as big as this, I would not be shocked to see Kevin or Chris show up on there to talk about this. They've been on there before. They get people from Bungie pretty frequently.
Yeah.
Them and Astacross is another one. I'm always advocating for content creators that I like. I like them. I'm interested to see what Ascendant Nomad has to say. There's going to be a lot of people I'm going to be paying attention to. True Vanguard, Rick Kakis, seeing what all of them think. Cool Guy, what everyone is thinking about this sandbox. Of course, this is like everything else. So I really want to like emphasize this here at the end that we do not know how any of this is going to play out until it is in our hands on May 24th.
Right.
I will say I feel like the majority of the community has been really like they kind of understand how this is going to go now. They announce the stuff way in advance, so we have time to talk about things. We have time to talk things out. Damage is going to be gone for 3 weeks, so we're not going to hear from him about any of this. Just kind of let us, talk it over as a Destiny community. But there is a line of right and wrong. And he kind of addressed this on Reddit, saying that part of the reason why they stopped sharing so much for a while there was because they were getting a lot of harassing. They were getting a lot of harassing comments. And he says, there's a line between feedback and harassment, and a lot of it was crossing that. And he's like, the vast majority of you were not doing that, but we were getting a lot of that. The community team, the developers, etc., were, and that's never okay. If this is an example of what we can get, please don't be shitheads. Please.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff I personally really like seeing this. Again, you're listening to a Destiny podcast. You're probably interested in these numbers. Like, you're probably interested in graphs. I especially like the one about the weapon usage breakouts.
Yeah.
Really
It actually
like
helped.
those.
Seeing these graphs actually helped me understand a lot more of some of this stuff. Because, I could look at numbers all day and, my brain can't comprehend when I look at a number, but if I can see it visually on a graph or something, it's way more useful for me.
Right. So very, very stoked about that one. And then we had one more. We had one more. We put out a call for questions, and Andre, you stepped up to the plate again. I'm happy to have something fun to kind of close the show out on, since we're not going to do a work corner this week. Corey, I'm going to let you answer this one first.
Oh boy,
put you on the spot. Favorite Destiny 2 raid moment so far? So Destiny 2 raids. We're not
Destiny
counting
2
no
raid.
Oryx, no beating the shit out of Crota at the knees,
Yeah.
Favorite Destiny 2 raid moment.
So there's a couple. The first time you land on Leviathan, that was cool, and trying to figure it out with a team. That was cool. That raid didn't end up being great, but it was cool getting a new raid for the first time in a while, right? Like since Wrath, I guess.
Yeah.
And trying to figure out how the new supers would work in in a raid type scenario, right? That was interesting. But then like when I lost that raid group and everybody kind of went their separate ways or stopped playing or whatever, I didn't really get to raid a lot until we did Scourge of the Past, we did Deepstone Crypt, and like
Hmm.
finally seeing the Deepstone Crypt was cool, even though we only went through like the first like maybe 10th of it.
We went through the entry plaza.
Yeah, yeah. Which tells me that there's still more coming from that at some
I've
point.
told you,
But
I think that's one of the dungeons we're getting this year is the
yeah,
Deepstone Crypt.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's kind of got to be right. But I think like honestly, when they announced Vault was coming back, and like when your team lands on Venus and seeing the Vault, like the nostalgia you feel for Destiny 1, but just they change it just enough to make it feel fresh, you know? That was cool. So, I mean, anytime there's a new raid, you get excited, right? Like
Yeah.
you get really excited. And um God, Deepstone was like that just the spacewalk, I think, in Deepstone might be one of the coolest things they've ever done.
Yeah, I think I think I've got a top three here, I think.
Yeah.
For me, number three is the Scourge of the Past Sparrow race because it was so
Hmm.
unexpected. The
Yeah.
first time that I got lit up by the servitor, I was just laughing so hard
Hmm.
that we had to take a break for a couple minutes. I thought that was pretty great. Also, like getting to do the activity, like the opening encounter in the city, was really cool to me.
Yeah.
Um, but I think my top two moments are like a 1A, 1B, which
Hmm.
because you've got this on one hand, you've got the spacewalk, which
Right.
is I think probably the most beautiful section of any game, and it's only made more beautiful by the Deepstone Lullaby playing. But like
Hmm.
the way that the guns sound, the way you see the bodies floating in space when when you shoot something or you destroy a shank, just the design of all of it. It's
Hmm.
almost certainly the most memorable jumping puzzle, like not for its pitfalls, but for just how it is. Because it's
Hmm.
not that hard, but it's so memorable because of all the other factors.
Right.
You've got Clovis's AI taunting you, you know, half of the way, and then you have to fight Briggs at the end, which is really cool. I think after you have to fight
Yeah.
through all the stuff and have the ship shooting at you at the beginning. And how the chest is just right there on the pathway is hilarious. It was
Yeah.
kind of like, yeah, well, we didn't really want to build anything else, so here you go. You guys get a free chest. Like
Yeah.
you probably missed the one at the beginning, so here we'll give you a layup chest.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, as cool as that is, absolutely fucking nothing compared to getting in the elevator in Last Wish and going down and realizing we were looking at an Ahamkara for the first time.
Hmm.
Seeing Riven actually come face to face with you is, I think, like that is Destiny's art team and storytelling team flexing their creative muscles right there. There's
Hmm.
a reason why, when John and I are ranking the raids, like Last Wish is still like number two for me. It's
Hmm.
arguably number one. Like that, Vow of the Disciple and Kingsfall are all so close for me.
Yeah.
But so much of what I love about Last Wish is Riven, and it
Hmm.
doesn't even end when you kill Riven. You still have to rip her heart out and run with it.
Hmm.
It is the wackiest encounter. If you do that thing legit, hats off to you. If you've ever done Riven legit, I certainly never will. I have no desire to do it legit. I don't know who the fuck came up with the idea for Riven Legit, but you are an absolute mad lad, and I have a feeling that it was Joe and Justin who are now running the game. I have a really bad feeling that Joe was on that team, and we know for a fact that our current campaign lead was on the Last Wish team. So if you guys were in charge of that, hats off, because that's the wildest shit I've ever seen. And I think that was like, for me, that was the moment where I saw like what Destiny was going to be in the future. Like I was one of those guys who, and I still do to a degree, I cling to Oryx still, but seeing the Ribbon fight and seeing like the makeup of Last Wish as a raid as a whole really is what told me we are moving into an unprecedented area. We're not holding on to D1 anymore like we did at the beginning of D2. We're not holding on anymore. We're not holding on to what made Wrath of the Machine so good. No more Death Zambonis. We're not holding on to that. You are the Death Zamboni now. So I'm excited to see what comes next. Valid Disciple, just like, I mean, also seeing Rolk, like Rolk, that's like that may replace the Sparrow race. I don't know. Like seeing somebody who's not even a part of a race that we know had been something I had speculated for so long for a raid boss, and after being so underwhelmed with Tanyx being the final boss of Deepstone, as much as I love the whole Deepstone raid, and I think it's the perfect intro to raiding. Fuck, it was really depressing fighting Tanyx again. But God, Rolk. Like, listen, when we said we wanted Keitel to step on us, we wanted Keitel. We didn't want Daddy Longlegs over here, okay? It's not okay, ladies and gentlemen. I don't like it. I'm not a fan. But that's it. There's no more raid moments. We can be again. We've done entire pods on the raids. If I get a chance, I'm just going to start talking about the Death Zamboni again, and nobody wants that. Corey, do you have anything to add before we get out of here tonight? Any final words of wisdom to impart to these guardians?
Go get your stuff. Go grind your trials and your Nightfall.
We didn't even talk about it, but we're gonna wait until it's officially released and it's not data mined. But holy shit, the Guardian game stuff actually looks kind of awesome.
Oh,
and I can't wait to talk about Guardian games. Presumably next week is when we're getting the details because this drops on May 3rd. I'm very excited to talk about Guardian games.
I love the Titan armor, dude.
I love that it looks that the butt flap, you got like a side butt flap covering the right cheek, but you got a loincloth down the middle too, and it's see-through. Like, that's kind of lewd.
Yeah.
I don't like the Hunter set. I don't like the Hunter set that much. I'm really digging the Warlocks, though.
Yeah.
I may be on Team Warlock this year, my friends.
I really like the Titan set. I like the helmet and the gauntlets because they're not like carrying giant tanks on your face.
Right.
So I really just need a really good Titan helmet, and I'm really just waiting for one at this point. I hate the Titan helmet so much.
Well, you will be able to be a Gundam in 6 short months.
I know. That's exciting. It's exciting. Maybe they are listening. Maybe they've just heard me complain about Titan helmets for a year and a half. 2 years, however long we've been doing this. Oh, man. Anyways, anything else, Josh?
No, I don't have anything else. We will absolutely have Lore Corner next week. I promise. I will have it. I'll be ready to go. This was so massive. I don't expect another one this big, with the exception of if it is either Arc or Solar, and I have a very strong feeling it's Solar. They are running out of time to reveal it. That will be the only other like mega TWAB episode we will probably have for the next couple of months. So definitely we're gonna get some Lore Corners. I've got the last of the ghost stories ready to go. I've got the last of the seasonal lore that we still need to get through. We got plenty of good stuff. I need to transcribe it and decide what order I want to do it in. What do I want to save for later? What do I want to do now, etc. So,
Ghost Stories. That was a good Destiny podcast. It was like it was a really deep lore podcast. It was really good, and then they stopped. But I think a lot of it's like D1 lore stuff. So I mean, if you want to check it out, you can. It was good, but they haven't put out an episode in like 5 years. So
there are some really good lore guys out there. I mean, of course, we all know Bife and Mylan. There's some other. I'm trying to find some smaller people who talk about the lore a bit that are a little bit more on my level, probably. You know, to where I don't have to rely on those guys to transcribe certain things. But you know, announce Grimoire Anthology 5. Let's go.
I know. Where is it?
I've got the exotics book ordered. Let's get the Grimoire Anthology going.
Right.
Let me put more of my money on pre-order with Bungie and Amazon.
Hold on, what's the exotics book?
It was something that got listed, and it's like an art book about the exotics. It's like 200 pages long.
What?
Oh, it went up on Amazon a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, the Destiny Exotic Collection Volume 1, that one?
Yep. Yep.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, yeah, I have that pre-order already. It's like,
Oh, Corey thought I was ordering merchandise without telling him.
yeah,
Also, hey, this listen, this psyop shirt is kind of bitching. I like it. I
it
like the
is. It's
colors.
cool. Yeah,
Listen to me spend more money, guys.
yeah.
So, Corey, get us
Oh,
out of
man.
here before I spend
Yeah,
more money on
yeah,
the air.
I know. All right. I want to thank everybody for listening to Tower Casuals. You can follow us on Twitter at Tower Casuals, also Instagram. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can check out our lore corners there in case you missed some. They are all broken out by season for you to enjoy. Hope you do. If you listen on iTunes or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Really helps us out. Josh, thank you for your time tonight. Where can we find you?
Twitter at Josh_Finn, 2 N's. Come listen to me pray and hope that Luka Doncic has not hurt himself too badly and is back for game 4. But if tonight's score is any indicator, we may not need him this series because the Mavs are whooping some ass in Utah right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Utah though,
Yeah, I mean, I do like basketball an awful lot. NBA playoffs are one of my favorite times of the year. So
Yeah.
a lot of
Cavs
fun.
lost their play-in game, so
The Cavs still had a successful season by all accounts, though. So
well,
the fact
yeah,
they
I mean,
even made it to the 7th seed was huge.
yeah, the fact
And
that
they
the
did have
Cavs,
like all their stars hurt. So I
yeah,
feel good about the Cleveland Cavaliers going forward.
me too. Unlike the Browns. Anyways,
Uh,
successfully, the Browns might be good, but I don't feel great about some of their decisions making.
well, I'll tell you something.
Side tangent.
Neither successfully nor personnel decisions do I feel confident in the Seahawks. So
Side tangent. Did you see? Not only do we have Deshaun Watson now, but did you see we signed that corner who was punching people? That viral video of him punching people.
I did see that. I chose not to
That
bring it up
was,
to you.
yeah. Anyways, you can find me at I am Corey HD on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me probably complaining about the Browns' moral decision making. Also, video games and all that kind of stuff. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. Like, subscribe, share, rate, and review wherever you listen to Tower Casuals, and we will see you next time. Goodbye, Guardians.